Stefan Mychajliw joins us now, Deputy Communications Director for the Ramaswamy campaign. Sir, good morning to you. Shaking off some of the dust this morning. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Beginning with the provinces, that was a big takeaway for a lot of people when Ramaswamy called out Nikki Haley on this. Let's play the moment.
That they want to send our troops to actually fight for.
Some saw this as a low blow. I guess, first of all, what are the three provinces?
Я розумію український, я знаю український 1, 2, 3. Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia. Дуже добре, не добре. They're very good. I speak Ukrainian. I am Ukrainian. Those are the three provinces that Nikki Haley did not know. And I'm not running for president. I am just the Deputy Communications Director for Vivek Ramaswamy. And it's crystal clear, Nikki Haley could not phone a friend from that stage. Vivek Ramaswamy knows it. And he's the only candidate on that stage who will not send our sons and daughters to a foreign war to die so she can line her pockets. And the American people know that she does not know the regions that she wants to send our sons and daughters to war. Vivek Ramaswamy will not, and he showed that he will speak the truth no matter what on that debate stage.
Just the other day, he even told our Mary Alice Parks, with whom I just interviewed, that this time around he's going to be unhinged and brutally candid. So tell us, what does that mean?
It means that Vivek Ramaswamy at all times speaks the truth. It's the backbone of his campaign. And the truth is, career politicians on that stage want to drive America into World War III to line their own pockets. They have a history of that. That's the truth, and that's a fact. Nikki Haley made $8 million from the war machine, and Vivek Ramaswamy is going to tell the truth and the fact that he's going to put America first. He's not going to lead us into World War III. And at the end of the day, every single decision that he makes, and he'll express it in the debate tonight, is going to be based on one determining factor. Does this put America first? America cannot afford another World War III. America cannot afford to lose sons and daughters in another foreign war. They want the border secure. They want inflation curbed. And that's exactly what Vivek Ramaswamy is going to do. And that's what Vivek Ramaswamy is going to talk about at this third GOP debate.
So going in tonight, Vivek says that this debate isn't a make or break moment for him, just one more milestone. That was the quote. Yet his poll numbers continue to fall flat. He's trailing frontrunner Donald Trump by 50 points. So tell me, Stefan, what does milestone mean? What milestone is he talking about?
Well, go back to the beginning of the campaign, and I was with the beginning of the campaign in New Hampshire when we had polled Vivek Ramaswamy was at hash marks, literally 0.0%. And now he's on the GOP debate stage for the third debate, and a vice president of the United States has already dropped out. There's a lot of runway left in between now and the Iowa caucuses and the rest of this election. Go back to 2012. Rick Santorum, 3 weeks before the Iowa caucus, was polling at 5%, and he had won. Ben Carson was far ahead in the Iowa caucus in 2016, and Ted Cruz had won that. So there's a lot of runway left between now and the Iowa caucus, New Hampshire primary, South Carolina. And Vivek Ramaswamy is going to talk about his America First vision. It doesn't belong to Donald Trump, and it doesn't belong to Vivek Ramaswamy. It belongs to the American people. He's going to lay out that vision, and there's a lot of time between now and when the voters choose who the GOP nominee is going to be. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we are very confident that Vivek Ramaswamy will be the GOP nominee, and he will beat Joe Biden in a Ronald Reagan-type landslide.
Well, he's going to definitely have to start getting those numbers, and he's going to be the only candidate on the stage tonight who does not support funding for Israel's war against Hamas. Now, in past debates, we've seen him, take serious heat, especially from Nikki Haley when it comes to foreign policy. So is he prepared to defend that position on no aid to Israel and take on Haley, who's actually seeing a bump in the polls right now?
Well, that's what career politicians do. They lie and they manipulate any way they can for votes. Vivek Ramaswamy's position is very clear. He is pro-Israel. He had said if Israel wants to take the heads of 100 Hamas leaders and put them on a stake to show their strength, that's fine. Israel should have an Israel first policy, and that's their choice. Vivek Ramaswamy says he will fully fund Israel until the point where they say they are self-sufficient and may not need U.S. aid anymore. Until that happens, Vivek will fully fund Israel in their war against Hamas. At the end of the day, I think you'll have career politicians on that stage talking about going to war, lining their pockets, and Vivek will have an America First policy, allow Israel to have an Israel First policy, and I think that will resonate with the American taxpayer and Republican voters. The fact that Vivek will use the military to bomb cartels and secure our border, curb inflation. He's a business owner and political outsider who is on that stage with a bunch of career politicians, and that will resonate very strongly with the Republican audience tonight.
So he would bomb cartels?
Absolutely. And Vivek leads while others follow on this issue. Back in February, at the beginning of the campaign, Vivek Ramaswamy said he will use the military to bomb cartels and secure the southern border. While other politicians want to lead us to World War III in the Middle East, Vivek wants to secure the border. Absolutely. And of course, lo and behold, Vivek leads, others follow. Many months later, other presidential candidates came out with the same policy as Vivek. You better believe it. He will secure the border and put American first. Well, as a former media person, I wholeheartedly understand how a lot of political pundits and people within politics talk about things like that. But at the end of the day, this election is not going to be about former cabinet members. It's going to be about the American people and their pocketbooks. It's going to be about a wide open southern border that was closed under President Trump. And again, people can, you hear the Biden administration talking about jobs and data and statistics. And it's very one simple question. Are you better off now than you were when Joe Biden took office? And again, unless you're an illegal immigrant, they will say yes, but most American people will say no. That's what people are going to focus on this November.
So, Stefan, what does Republican Gary Dixon bring to the race?
Well, I think he brings something that Washington desperately needs, and it's not being a career politician. Gary Dixon, the West Seneca supervisor, has cut taxes in his community. He has a 27-year record with the FBI and law enforcement. He's going to secure the border and make sure that he reverses a lot of the very damaging policies that Joe Biden has inflicted on the American people. Record high inflation. It's almost impossible for families to make ends meet between credit card debt, putting gas in the car, putting food on the table. And Gary Dixon cut taxes in West Seneca. He is a true public servant. And the most important thing is he is not a career politician. The last thing D.C. needs are those, and that's why he brings a fresh perspective.
Stefan Mychajliw, former spokesperson for former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, argues that any polling shift towards Trump isn't about race at all.
I don't think this presidential campaign is about black or white. It's about the color of green, money.
He feels no matter the voting bloc, Harris's economic messaging is simply weaker than previous Democratic candidates like Obama.
People feel as though they had more money in their pockets when President Trump was commander-in-chief compared to the past 3.5 years when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have run the White House.
Jack Arpey, New York 1.
There are massive strikes going on in prisons across New York State. Friends of mine, people I know, family practically, who are literally COs who are stuck inside a prison. They haven't been out since Monday. They themselves feel like an inmate. So what are your thoughts on what's happening with these strikes all across New York?
The state of New York and the DOC's commissioner have completely failed at their responsibilities.
Because isn't it literally risking the lives not only of corrections officers, but also now, as you mentioned, those members of the National Guard who are not specifically trained to corral and take care of inmates inside a prison?
That is 100% correct.
So last question then for you, Chairman. Is there this backwards philosophy from the radical left, from Governor Hochul, where this powder keg has exploded of strikes because their policies have favored inmates over law enforcement?
Well, I mean, their policies have allowed the prisoners to be the victims.
So there are an awful lot of Americans of Ukrainian ancestry, and there are a lot of Americans who have family in Ukraine right now. And so you have to wonder what that is like and how they feel about what we're seeing on our screens. Stefan Mychajliw is the former county controller for Erie County, New York. We've had him on the show before. He has family there, and we're happy to speak to him live right now. Stefan, thanks so much for coming on. So do you have contact with people in Ukraine, and what are they saying?
We do through Dnipro Ukrainian Cultural Center in Buffalo. We have a large Ukrainian community in Buffalo. We're constantly talking to friends and family. And the one thing we keep hearing is about resolve, that even 80-year-old men are joining the militia in Ukraine. And a professor we spoke with earlier had said, basically, we showed tremendous restraint while on the verge of war and Putin was on our doorstep. And now that they've invaded, we're showing incredible resolve. And so the friends and family that we're talking to are heartbroken because not only are they going to be fighting back, but they feel as though this was entirely preventable. That we have a weak president who basically kicked open the door to Vladimir Putin by saying, well, we're going to determine our response based on if the Russians have a minor incursion in Ukraine. And 5 weeks later, here we are, some would say on the verge of World War III. So even from a political perspective, the one thing we talk about in the Ukrainian community is, sure, 81 million people, dead and alive, voted for Joe Biden because they didn't like President Trump's mean tweets. But we were a safer America, and Putin did not invade Ukraine while he was president. We have a weak president who also learned from the best in Barack Obama, who famously talked about this red line in Syria. And then what happens, 1 year and 1 day later, Assad gasses his own people and 1,400 are dead in Damascus. And so the kiss of death here was President Biden and his weakness, basically opening the door for Putin to invade Ukraine. And all of these global leaders know. And China's really paying attention now. I mean, look at Taiwan. You're looking at 85 to 95% of the major computer chips made there. And China is sitting back and saying, well, okay, if the U.S. and the world isn't going to let Putin get away with this, what's next?
It does feel like the worst place to be is on the friend list of this administration. I mean, its enemies may get hurt, but they love Baltimore, but Baltimore gets worse every year. They love Ukraine. I mean, you don't really want to be one of their friends, it seems like.
It's heartbreaking, and you're 100% right, because a lot of people within our Ukrainian community, whether it's in Buffalo, Rochester, or across America, know this was preventable. And again, people can say what they want about President Trump not liking him, but Russia did not invade Ukraine when he was president. And we have a president now who is showing global leaders weakness, whether it's weakness when it comes to energy dependence on Putin, Venezuela, and all of our enemies, or it's basically them knowing there's going to be zero repercussions when it comes to Russia invading Ukraine. And obviously, as a Ukrainian American, I feel very passionately that Vladimir Putin is going to burn in hell. I hope a Ukrainian sends him there. But in the meantime, the United States, NATO, the world, someone has to come forward to make sure there's tough as nails sanctions, because this is Hitler in 1939 all over again.
Yeah, maybe David Frum will help you. Stefan Mychajliw, great to see you tonight. Thank you so much.
Good to see you too.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.